Boo Carter commits to the University of Tennessee. A longtime target finally jumps in the boat. What could this mean for the class of 2024 and Tennessee's recruiting under Josh Heupel overall? That's a whole lot more. It's your Monday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it. This is your Monday edition of Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys being here. It's brought to you in part by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. You can make every moment more by visiting FanDuel.com/LockedOn to go ahead and get started today. All right, as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, I am on the road again covering Tennessee in the College World Series in Omaha, Nebraska. If you're watching on YouTube, I think this might be my best road setup yet. I found the ice tray to prop up my laptop, so I've got a little elevation here, so I'm looking eye to eye to you. You're not looking up at my face from below, and my microphone seems to be working out all right. I've got the background, so I'm pretty pumped up about this unique setup. So hopefully we'll get to do the entire week's worth of shows here this week from Omaha. Appreciate you guys subscribing as always. Locked On Vols on the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. I'll do my best to do a little Twitter Tuesday action for you everydayers. If you guys have any Twitter Tuesday. It's a wild week. As long as I'm on the road, it's going to be a wild week, so I'll do my best to get all that stuff there. But as always, making Locked On Vols your first listen wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. All right, so on today's show, as you can see from the right-hand panel, we're going to go over the Boo Carter commitment for Tennessee. What's this mean moving forward, and where does this class stand now? Recruiting overall from the weekend, a lot of high-caliber targets on campus for 12 official visitors this past weekend. How did Tennessee fare? And then lastly, we'll discuss Tennessee's loss to LSU in the College World Series on Saturday and what's in store for Tennessee against Stanford in an elimination game here in Omaha. Tennessee baseball updates from the College World Series. So Boo Carter jumps into the boat. What's this mean for Tennessee? Well, it is the 12th overall commit for the class of 2024. Tennessee now is at 14th in the country. There was a big days in terms of recruiting. It was a big recruiting weekend. Florida notably got 3 recruits on Saturday, I believe. So there was been some movement there, but the University of Tennessee sits at 14th in the land for this class of 2024. And of course, still headlined by 4-star quarterback Jake Merklinger, who's kind of the leader of the class, 4-star tight end Jonathan Eccles. Of course, Caleb Beasley is one of those guys that committed to the Tennessee a long time ago, and he was in town this past weekend, and we'll go ahead and get more on that here in just a moment. But as far as Boo Carter and kind of what this means for the University of Tennessee, a longtime target, if you will, from the University of Tennessee, played a number of different high schools down in the Chattanooga area. He's going to attend Bradley Central this fall, but again, he's kind of hopscotched around a little bit. But he's a really, really talented athlete. Okay, he is 4-star prospect, class of 2024. He is, a safety defensive back, but of course he can play offense as well. He's the number 2 athlete rated by On3 in the class or in the state of Tennessee. 6th overall in terms of the industry rankings per his position, which is athlete. 195th overall is where he ranks in the On3 industry rankings. On3 has him as the 90th overall, the 247th overall prospect, 8th player from the state of Tennessee, and 8th at his position, 5th overall player from the state of Tennessee. He's an athlete, all right, 5'10", 180 pounds. Again, Chattanooga area, going to attend Bradley Central High School this fall. And again, he wanted to commit to Tennessee in October. Thought about doing it in December, but wanted to slow his roll a little bit, take some time, do the due diligence. He's a kid that loves the recruiting process, and that's okay. And he took his visits, and he flirted on social media and all that, but came into town last week for the University of Tennessee and went ahead and committed to Tennessee at a big show event up there in New York City Saturday night. So, what he said about Tennessee, this is DeVolQuest.com, shortly before his commitment on Saturday, said these fans are crazy here. They treat me like family every time I go up there. It's close to home. It's an easy trip for my family and friends that are down here in Chattanooga, and that is important to me. I knew if I were to go there, I would come in with great relationships and players that have already there and who have left the program, and other players who are coming in too. We're going to try to win a natty. My relationship with the coaching staff has been very tight, and we have gotten even closer throughout this the scavenger hunt. He's talking about the 865 live event that took place a couple of weeks ago. So again, he's a guy that's was heavily recruited by Willie Martinez and Tim Banks. They like him in the defensive backfield. This is what he has said about those coaches. Quote, me and Coach Nez, Willie Martinez, have a great relationship because he recruited me from the jump. But further on in the process, I started talking with Coach Tim Banks a little bit more. He was very important in the factor of my recruitment. Both of them, really. Without the other, we wouldn't have we would not have as tight of a relationship as we are right now. We have great relationships, and I am ready to play for them. That is what Boo Carter told VolQuest upon his commitment to the University of Tennessee about defensive backs coach Willie Martinez and defensive coordinator Tim Banks. So again, he's a guy that chose Tennessee over Michigan primarily. Of course, Colorado was in that conversation as well. He announced his commitment in New York City at the 40-40 Club. And this is what On3 Director of Scouting and Rankings Charles Power has to say about Tennessee's new commit, Boo Carter. I think when you watch the variety of ways that he impacts the game, it bodes well for his overall playmaking ability as a safety. When you're evaluating safeties, you normally see some of the players that end up being the best in college football, that end up in high school draft pick or end up as high draft picks, having two-way playmaking ability at the high school level. And of course, that is exactly what Boo Carter brings to the table. He's a great guy. He's physical, isn't afraid to throw his body around. He's very active on defense. He has good instincts and coverage, and has been a standout on the 7-on-7 circuit. The reps there won't have him swimming, making his transition like some others would. It's a nice win for Tennessee in recruiting, as they have made recruiting the state a priority. I think he also projects well on special teams at the next level. So this is a big one for Tennessee in terms of getting Boo Carter. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm struggling to, my computer's a little bit far away from me. And ever since I turned 30, I can't see a lick. Now, I've always not been able to see out of my right eye. And for so many years, I just didn't care about it and didn't wear glasses or contacts or anything. And I don't have my glasses nearby because the light reflects in the glasses. So a struggle bus trying to read there with the computer far away. Hello, 30 years old. Hello, getting old and very depressing, right? But again, when you talk about Josh Heupel and wanting to close the state borders and wanting to recruit the state of Tennessee very, very well, Boo Carter in this class is a name that always comes up. He's a name that others flock to. I talked to Austin Price right here on this show a couple of weeks ago, and I said, who's that guy in the class, or maybe he's not in the class yet, that could really kind of be the straw that stirs the drink, that would be a leader in this class that people want to come and play with. And he mentioned Boo Carter, and Boo Carter, again, wasn't even a commit at that point in time. And so I think that's big, getting him in here in this class to kind of lead that in-state charge. So it's huge. And again, he becomes the 12th overall commit for the University of Tennessee, who ranks 14th in the nation in terms of the On3 industry rankings. And he's a guy that can play wide receiver. He can play running back. He can play cornerback, safety. I think his position at Tennessee, I think he could be a really, really good nickelback, right? That star position. But I think his future is at the next level, at least, is in the defensive backfield. And I think that's what Tennessee has liked from the start. They recruited him from the get-go as a defensive back. He came into camp, and I remember last summer, it was, during June, he came in camp, and I talked to him, and he was running some routes and everything, playing some wide receiver. And he was like, they like my playmaking ability on offense, but they love me on defense. They like me on defense. So where other programs were maybe talking about, hey, you can kind of come in here and be a two-way player. Hey, we like you on offense, but, kind of sugarcoating a little bit. Tennessee from the get-go was like, hey, you're going to be a defensive back if you come here. And ultimately, it was okay with him. And he chose to come to Tennessee knowing that he's going to play safety and nickelback. So big for Tennessee. What could this mean in relation to some of these other guys like Daniel Calhoun, Edwin Spillman, we'll talk about here in the next segment. He mentioned both of those guys during his exit interview with VolQuest from the 865 Live a couple weeks ago. Can there be other guys that want to flock to him from the state of Tennessee? And how big of an impact will this be? We'll find out, but I think this is a huge get for Tennessee in terms of a playmaker, in terms of a guy that can make plays with the ball in his hands, but also really, really good feet, really, really good athleticism, a sure tackler, and a guy that can play outside the box. That is Boo Carter. And hopefully this will kick off some momentum for Tennessee heading into the last week of June and into July, when some more commitments should be rolling in. This is a big get for Tennessee, no doubts about it. Say what you want about Josh Heupel and some of his misses in terms of recruiting. since he's been here at Tennessee. Reminder, you're not going to get them all, but in my opinion, this one would have looked bad if you didn't get it. But ultimately, Boo Carter jumps in the boat, and he is a part of the class of 2024 for the University of Tennessee. All right, what about some other guys who could join him coming up? Huge recruiting weekend for the University of Tennessee on campus. And who were some of those guys here? What were they saying? And what could this mean for, again, the weeks to come? More Tennessee recruiting talk when we return right here on Locked On Vols. Hey, I want to remind you guys again, a proud sponsor of this show, FanDuel Sportsbook. Baseball season, it is in full swing, and there's no better place to get in on all the action than over at FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. It's truly too good to be true. It's what it feels like. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to join today. Guys, you guys know I'm a huge baseball fan. I love football. I played football. You know, that is my past. That is my passion. But I also have a passion for baseball. And, you know, coming up, getting into this industry as a play-by-play broadcaster for baseball and color commentator for football. You know, I've been around the sport a long time, played the sport for a long time. I'm covering the sport right now in Omaha, Nebraska for the College World Series. And I watch Major League Baseball every single night. I watch those Atlanta Braves. And there's so many different ways that you can add some coin to your pocket, run lines, you know, all that type of stuff, futures, you know, MVPs, Ronald Acuna Jr.'s ahead of the pack, all-star games coming up. You can do a whole lot, plus that no-sweat first bet over at FanDuel Sportsbook on Major League Baseball. Don't miss your chance at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball trademarks used with permission. All right, guys, welcome back into your Monday edition of Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys always being here, and you everydayers for coming back for some more. One more note on Boo Carter that I forgot to mention in segment number one. Again, awesome commitment coverage and recruiting coverage overall at VolQuest.com from Austin Price, Matt Ray, Brent Hubbs. Doing an awesome job. My coworkers, of course, I'm going to brag on them. But this is another one of the quotes that he gave VolQuest at the time of his commitment. He said, I can't really find it. Where did it go? Anyway, it was basically just saying, you know, he loved how he would be used at the University of Tennessee and kind of seeing what it would look like in the defense. And so he mentioned that to VolQuest upon, you know, his commitment. I think that's a big deal as well. Having these guys kind of see how they'd be used. And I know that Caleb Beasley mentioned something like that as well, but seeing kind of what it looks like, right? It's good to, you know, have the talk, but also sit down, watch the film, point out somebody on that defense and say, okay, this is kind of your role. This is what you're going to be doing. And this is how we can expand on this to make it even better. I think that goes a long way with kids who are trying to make one of the biggest decisions in their life. So who were some of these other guys who were on campus for official visitors? Well, we're not going to go over them all. We went over a lot of them on Friday and previewing this weekend with Matt Ray. But I'm gonna mention a couple of them here. Of course, the highlights, the commitment from Boo Carter that came at about 8 o'clock on Saturday night. That was huge. But as official visits in this weekend started wrapping up on Sunday morning, VolQuest had a chance to talk with a lot of these guys. Let's start with Caleb Beasley. The biggest thing we got from Caleb Beasley, and he's been a long-time commit for the University of Tennessee. He committed to Tennessee back in the fall. But as I mentioned with Matt last week, and as I've talked before, he's been a guy that's like, yeah, I'm committed. Yeah, I want to be a leader in this class. Yet he's been signing up to take visits elsewhere. He's been, again, enjoying the process. And there's nothing wrong with that. You only get one chance to do this. Well, now you can get two, maybe, if you decide to transfer away with the transfer portal. But it's an experience you'll never get back. So it's not like I'm hating on the kids for doing this. But for Caleb Beasley, it's like, okay, you can't be a leader in this class and talk that talk. You got to walk it. And he kept on, you know, signing up for trips to Notre Dame and Oklahoma and all this type of stuff. So the biggest thing from Caleb Beasley coming out of this weekend was he said he's shutting it down. Quote to VolQuest, I'm not taking any more visits. I think this is my only one. This weekend, I had a great time. It was really, really good for me. He goes on, here's home, talking about Knoxville. I'm going to have all the connections I need here, especially being an in-state guy that's really, really big, and I know everyone that goes here. Also, his cousin is Aaron Beasley. They won't get to play together, but still, that's a big-time connection there. So for Caleb Beasley, who's one of the better, you know, players in the country, one of the top defensive backs, one of the best players in the state of Tennessee, been committed to Tennessee for months, and you never thought it was in jeopardy, but it's still kind of like, all right, well, why are you taking all these visits? The biggest thing from Caleb Beasley this weekend was saying, hey, I'm shutting her down. I'm a Tennessee Volunteer, and that's that. So I thought that was very noteworthy, and I thought that was big coming out of the weekend for Caleb Beasley. What about one of his teammates over at Lipscomb Academy? All right, that is Edwin Spillman. Edwin Spillman, another long. When we talk about this class of 2024, we've been talking about these guys, for a long time. Like the class of 2022 was a big in-state class, not for Tennessee because of all the transition, but there was a lot of good prospects. Class of 23 was okay. 24 is really, really talented as well. So we've been talking about these guys for years, it feels like, and you can't mention Boo Carter without mention, Caleb Beasley, and you especially can't mention Caleb Beasley without mentioning Edwin Spillman, his teammate, Edwin Spillman, Marcus Gorey, those types of guys. And, Edwin Spillman was back on campus. His brother, a reminder, Nate Spillman, in the class of 2023. So you would think that it is a slam dunk. You would think that Tennessee is in great position here, and that's great. But he doesn't want, hey, this is his time, right? He wants to write his own chapters, and I get that. That's fine. And so he's been very kind of held off, like it's not a slam dunk to Tennessee. I'm going to go through my due diligence, my process, and all that. But Edwin Spillman, he was back on campus this weekend. He updated his timeline, saying that he's going to finish out this month of June official visits, and then he's going to make a decision in July. He's going to have a Georgia official visit next weekend, but what it's coming down to right now, and this is what he said leaving campus this weekend, it's Tennessee or Ohio State. So those are the two front runners, which is big. Again, he's visiting Georgia next weekend. He's already been to Florida State and Ohio State. Was at Tennessee this weekend, and we'll wrap things up with Georgia next weekend. But for Edwin Spillman, Tennessee or Georgia, and again, I'm not trying to ruin the kid's moment, of course, and I'm letting the kid have his time and all that because that's important. But Tennessee's still in the driver's seat here, and again, your brother is here, and those two guys are close. And I really do believe, I still believe, I thought this entire time that Edwin Spillman is going to be a University of Tennessee Volunteer. Just a matter of when he wants to commit. So I think this weekend was good. He did say the two front runners, Tennessee and Ohio State. So that was good to see. Maybe the headliner this weekend, if you will, for Tennessee. And we talked about him a lot on Friday with Matt. And, of course, I'm not going to be able to talk about a lot of these guys simply because we only have one segment to cover it, maybe more tomorrow's show. But 5-star defensive lineman Williams Nwaneri, okay, Missouri guy. He's heavily involved with Oklahoma, heavily involved with Tennessee. Those are the two front runners there. Missouri is in that conversation, of course, because it's the home state. Georgia's in that conversation. He's going to actually go on an official visit next weekend to Missouri, I do believe. But he pretty much said that his timeline is going to still be in September. There's a final official visit to Oregon scheduled for September. A lot of us in the industry are kind of wondering, is he going to make that official visit? Do you think he'll make it that far? Because, again, this is a Tennessee-Oklahoma battle, and so I don't think Oregon really has anything to do with it. But if he stays on his timeline, it's going to be in September after a later official visit to Oregon. But right now it's Tennessee and Oklahoma. He'll be at Missouri next weekend. But, said he had a really good time, coming out of Tennessee, being here this weekend. VolQuest.com, he said, quote, really what stood out to me is something I could see myself doing, just coming in, being an impact to the team. They see me playing the whole defensive line, moving around and all that. I can put everything on tape that way. And again, he's kind of an inside technique, right? He's a big guy. Let's see here. I'll get his measurables. He is a big guy, a defensive lineman, 6'6", 260 pounds. So he's an inside technique, but his athleticism allows him to play out on the edge and potentially a Leo position in certain spots, maybe pass rushing or whatever. And he was asked about that. And he said, most definitely when asked about the appeal of playing on the outside, moving around and all that, flying around, making plays, putting that on tape is good. And he spent a whole lot of time with Mike Eckler this weekend. Said, I got to pick their brains. They keep it real with me. Talking about spending time with coaches and players. I talked with Shandavion Bradley, who hosted him. Of course, Shandavion Bradley is also a Missouri guy, and some other guys, but mostly Shandavion Bradley. He had just went through the process as he was able to talk to me about how the adjustments, coming in and all that was if I were to choose Tennessee. So 5-star, number one defensive player according to On3. I think he's ranked the number 2 player overall in this class. Williams Nwaneri, and really, really good player. It's Tennessee and Oklahoma right now, but we'll see if he eventually makes that trip to Oregon in September. And, of course, he'll be at Missouri next week, but I really don't think Missouri's a player in that one. And the last one I want to highlight that was here this weekend, and, again, there was a lot of other really good guys. Jake Merklinger was here. Franklin was here. There's a lot of good players that were here. But I want to talk about Daniel Calhoun just for a minute. Tennessee's already got some commits on the offensive line, which is really, really good. They want to take a lot of guys on the offensive line in this class because they're going to be losing a lot, to be completely frank, after this season. And Daniel Calhoun is a guy that they have coveted for a long time, the Georgia native, and they got him up here for his official visit this weekend. And it seems like he had a good time. Quote, I've been up here so many times. Really, I was trying to build relationships with the players. I spent most of the time with them than I have ever before. There's been a whole lot of buzz around Georgia and Alabama with his recruitments, but it sounds like Tennessee did make a move. Ask about that. He said, most definitely. This is probably one of the best visits I've ever been on. It was really good. We went on the lake, hung out on the boat. It was a whole lot of fun. Tennessee is up there for me. I probably can't rank the schools right now, but they were up there for me for sure. And then one other note on Daniel Calhoun, the talented offensive tackle, 4-star, is he got to spend a whole lot of time with Darnell Wright, former Tennessee offensive tackle, who, of course, was just selected 10th overall in the NFL draft. And had a lot of good things to say about that. And why wouldn't you, right? He said, I spent time with him, which was good. He said, to come to Tennessee, he said, the coach Ellerby was the best coach, and this place was real. And that's, wow, what an endorsement there for Tennessee from Darnell Wright. Again, a guy that just went 10th overall in the NFL draft, a guy that came in, developed, and Glenn Ellerby, who I'm not going to lie to you, has not had a great track record in terms of recruiting. To get that type of stamp of approval from Darnell Wright, who was developed and drafted and now rich, mostly because of, I don't want to say mostly because Darnell Wright had a lot to do with it, but partially at least because of Glenn Ellerby, that's huge. And so it's funny, I was leaving for Nebraska for Omaha Saturday morning. I got really lucky. It was expensive, but I got really lucky. Pretty quick, flights from Knoxville to Chicago to Nebraska to Omaha. It only took about 5 hours in total, which was great, including layovers. Probably not going to have that much luck coming back. I'm going to be real with you guys. And that reminds me, I'll do a podcast tomorrow, but whatever day I'm traveling home, whenever that is, hopefully it'll be next week, right? If Tennessee keeps winning, very real chance I'm probably not going to do a show that next day, but I'll communicate with you guys. You can always follow me at _Caner and at Locked On Vols in the community tab on YouTube. I will let you guys know, what day I plan on not doing a show due to travel. But anyway, we'll get to that later. But I was in the airport in McGee-Tyson, and I was sitting there, and I was getting a coffee before I got on the plane, and I saw Darnell Wright. I was flying to Chicago for to get a connector, and he was getting off the plane I was about to get on. And he just strolled through McGee-Tyson, went over there to the Starbucks, got him something, then left. And I kind of thought to myself, I was like, I bet he's coming back to come around, spend time with his friends and everything, go back to wherever place he, had here. I would assume he had an apartment or something. And I was like, I wonder if he'll pop in and spend some time with those official visitors this weekend. And sure enough, that's exactly what he did. So in terms of Daniel Calhoun, huge that he got to spend time with Darnell Wright. I think that could go an awfully long way. Okay, we got a final segment left here on this Monday edition of Locked On Vols. Wasn't the outcome that you wanted Saturday night for the Tennessee baseball team, but you're still alive. An elimination game later today against Stanford. Who is the Cardinal, and what are some other updates from Tennessee here at the College World Series? That and a whole lot more coming up next right here on Locked On Vols. All right, guys, we got a final segment here on Monday's show at _Caner at Locked On Vols. As you can tell, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm in a hotel room again. Very, very proud of my road setup this week. Hopefully we'll get to do the show a couple more times from this setup, but nonetheless, we'll see. Tennessee's in the College World Series, second time in 3 years, sixth time overall. But unfortunately, the loss to LSU on Saturday makes it 6 straight losses for the University of Tennessee in the College World Series, dating back to 2001, okay? You guys have heard me say this a million times. It is, especially if you listen to my work at VolQuest and, on some of the other things I do, it is so incredibly difficult to get to Omaha. I think it's one of the hardest things in all of sports to do. I mean, the NBA playoffs last about 6 months, right? And I think that's pretty difficult because you have so many series and all that. I think getting to Omaha is so hard, especially if you're in the SEC because of just the stretch you go through in the regular season. And then you go to Hoover, and then you go to regional setup, and then you go to super regional setup, which is a different setup, and then you go to Omaha, which combines the two. It is so incredibly difficult just to get to Omaha, yet win the whole damn thing, right? So it's tough. Obviously you like to win on Saturday if you're Tennessee. Obviously, you don't like having this quote unquote losing streak in Omaha, but the fact that you're getting to Omaha again, it just shows where this program is under Tony Vitello. Can't say enough, but Saturday was tough. Someone put on the message board over on the GQ at volquest.com, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, it is what it is, right? You went up against the best pitcher on the planet right now at this level, and that's Paul Skeens, and he was great. He ended up allowing 1 run, or actually 2 runs. He got a charge for after he left the game. 7 innings and 2/3, give up 5 hits. He struck out 12. He walked 1. And for the most part of the night, Tennessee just couldn't hit him. They had a good approach to him in the first inning, made him work a little bit. I think he ended up with like 23, 24 pitches in that first inning. He struck out the side in the second inning, but Blake Burke, who was down 0-2, battled back, striking out on a full count pitch, but really kind of saved, right? Made him work a little bit because there was 2 quick outs. I want to say 5 pitches for the first 2 batters. He tallied a strikeout in at least all but 2 innings that he pitched. He retired, 5-6 in a row at one point in time. Up until the leadoff double from Christian Scott in the 8th inning, Tennessee had 3 men on base, but couldn't move past first base. Hunter Inslee had 2 singles, and I think it was Griffin Merritt had a single, but nobody can move past first base against Paul Skeens. He was just good. I mean, and again, this is newsflash. He's been the greatest pitcher, this entire season. So he was really good, but I thought Tennessee worked and finally got him out of the ball game in the 8th inning when Tennessee was threatening to score some runs. It was Maui Ahuna's RBI single up the middle that eventually got him out, right? And Tennessee was on the board avoiding a shutout. At that point in time, it was 5-1. And then as soon as he leaves the game, they put in another pitcher, and Hunter Inslee goes yard, a little 2-run shot. And at that point in time, Tennessee was within 2 runs. Jared Dickey beat out an infield single, laid down an infield single. The tying run was at the plate for the University of Tennessee and Christian Moore. And sure, that strike zone, they were squeezing them. I can tell you this, Tennessee was not happy with the strike zone whatsoever after the game. And conversations I've had and off the record conversations right outside the dugout right after the game, not happy with that strike zone. And it just is what it is, right? That's part of baseball sometimes. It's unfortunate, but it's whatever. But I mean, Paul Skeens is good. Like, Paul Skeens doesn't need any more help. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of like Tennessee's mindset. And, you can go back to that Christian Moore strike 3 call and all that. It was a tight zone, and it was unfortunate. I didn't think the home plate umpire had a particularly good night whatsoever. The home plate umpire in game 3 of the Super Regional, man, he was calling strikes all over. Like that game was going to be over with in 2 hours, right? A little bit different, but it wasn't a very good home plate umpire in my opinion. But Tennessee showed some fight. Tennessee battled back. Tennessee did not go into the dark getting shut out and having only 3 hits on the day. That 8th inning kind of sparked a little something. And again, I'm not trying to say moral victories or anything like that, but it was good to see Tennessee just not roll over, right? And so I think it would give him a little bit of momentum. And I think that's what Jared Dickey told me after the game when I interviewed him. It's like it gives them a little bit of momentum, gives them some, pep in the step. You don't go into practice on Sunday afternoon and then going into an elimination game on Monday against Stanford. And that's kind of where I want to talk about it now. Basically what needs to happen for Tennessee to get out of this bracket, if you will, and advance on to the championship series for the College World Series, just like in regional setup. You lose the first game, you've got to win 4. So Tennessee's got to play today and win. Tennessee's got to play the loser of Wake Forest and LSU. If Tennessee were to win today, they would play the winner. They would play the loser of that game on Tuesday. Then you got to turn around and play the winner of that game on Wednesday. Then you got to turn around and beat them again on Thursday potentially. So it's tough, right? I mean, you got the card stacked against you now. You're in a hole. But again, as I've said the entire time, Tennessee's got pitching to where you've got a fighting chance, to come out of the loser's bracket. You're deep enough with pitching. And I wasn't the biggest fan of how Tony Vitello and Frank Anderson did their pitching in game 1. Andrew Lindsay, I thought, got the early hook. I didn't think he was bad. I didn't think he was great, but I really didn't think he was bad. But I mean, through 3 2/3, he was up to 72 pitches, and the margin for error is so incredibly thin against Paul Skeens. I understand it. You go to Aaron Combs, who came on and got a huge strikeout. That's back-to-back weeks where he's come in being a bridge guy and has picked up a massive strikeout. And then you hand the ball to Seth Halverson at the beginning of the inning where he's much more effective and much better, in my opinion. And he goes an inning and 2/3 at 31 pitches. And at that point in time, you're losing 4-0. And you're like, okay, 30 pitches for Halverson, who's one of your best relievers. Let's cap it. We'll need you on Monday potentially, which I had no problem with. Then you give it to Kirby. And then Kirby Cannell, Cannon Sewell comes over, gives up a run. It's 5-0. He pitches an inning at 23 pitches. But then you have a little comeback. Like, you're sparking a little bit there in that 8th inning, and you're down 2 runs. You're still down, don't get me wrong. But then you give the ball to Hollis Fanning, who was up, down, kind of like MLB The Show, hot, warm, hot, warm. He's been warm forever. And so he comes in and wasn't great. And then you give it to A.J. Russell to finish off the game for you before you come back to the plate and they get 3 outs and it's game over. So, again, maybe I would have left Camden Sewell in there, excuse me, to pitch that 8th inning. But he was at 23 pitches after just 1 inning. And again, the big thing about it is Tennessee, outside of Andrew Lindsay, will have everybody available for Monday, which is huge. It's a must-win game. You're going to have to do whatever you can to beat Stanford and stay alive. And so, who is Stanford? Well, Stanford came up short. They led 2-1 against Wake Forest the majority of that first game on Saturday, and ultimately Wake Forest scored 2 runs in the 8th inning, came back and beat them 3-2. Stanford's pretty good ball club, 44-18 on the season. They were the 8th overall seed. They hosted a regional and a super regional. They had to climb out of their regional after losing game 2. They had to win 3 straight, and they did just that. They lost game 1 to Texas in the super regional, had to win 2 straight, just like Tennessee and Southern Miss. So they're battle tested as well. Excuse me, guys. My voice. Let me take a sip of this coffee. Oh, yeah. A little bit better, at least for right now. The guy you're going to be seeing is lefty Quinn Matthews. Really good pitcher. He's their ace. He's got a 10-4 record on the season, a 3.60 ERA. And if you remember, he made headlines last weekend in game 2 where he threw 156 pitches and had 16 strikeouts against Texas in a must-win game. Again, I got some criticism for this over the weekend and last week. It is what it is. That's malpractice. Okay, that's not doing right by your kid. I get it. It's super regional. I get it. It's postseason baseball. Pitch counts kind of go out the window. But at that point in time in the game, in the 9th inning, you had a 5-run lead against Texas, and you're sending this guy back out there. Why not save him 20, 25 pitches? Like, what are you doing? There was no sense in him throwing 156 pitches. But again, it is what it is. He will pitch against Tennessee today. Really, really good pitcher. Again, 10-4, 3.60 ERA, coming off a career outing, 156 pitches. How fresh will he be? 16 strikeouts. I will say this: he's a great strikeout pitcher. He's logged 120 innings on the year, 152 strikeouts. But here's the kicker: he's given up a ton of extra base hits. 43 extra base hits he's surrendered on the year. Good pitcher, but he's given up 29 doubles. So 43 extra base hits on the year. There's opportunity there for Tennessee. This lineup, again, it's pretty nice lineup. 319 at the plate. That's 9th highest average in the about to say Major League Baseball. In college baseball, they have the 8th best slugging percentage in college baseball. They have the 10th highest home run total at 117. They scored 529 runs. That's 10th best. Really solid lineup. Third baseman Tommy Troy, really one of several talented hitters. He had a multi-hit day against Wake Forest in game 1. He's got 397 batting average. Cleanup hitter Alberto Rios leads the team with 18 home runs. He's second with 71 RBI. You got Braden Montgomery, who's the DH, 17 home runs, 60 RBI. Malcolm Moore, who's the catcher, 15 home runs, 63 RBI. First baseman Graham Carter, 15 home runs, 77 RBI. Those RBIs lead the team there. Drew Bowser, second baseman, 14 home runs, 48 RBI. Really, really talented lineup up and down. So Tennessee is going to get challenged. Tennessee is going to get challenged by Stanford, who, like them, have had their backs against the wall a couple times. They've had to win to survive and advance on. The winner today will take on, the loser of Wake Forest and LSU, and that'll come up on Tuesday. If you lose, you're done. So we will see. Hopefully this will be an extended stay in Omaha, and hopefully Tennessee will find a way to win. No reason not to believe in the Volunteers with that pitching that they have. That is for sure. But that is an update here from Omaha for the College World Series. Guys, as always, I appreciate you. Couldn't do this show without you. Every dayers, you guys are the best. Shoot me in those Twitter Tuesday questions early in the day, because I'll need to record some of it before the game and then finish it after the game. And depending on, win or lose, depends on what I'm doing the next day. So earlier the better for those Twitter Tuesday questions. Can't thank you enough. Appreciate you as always. If you're here in Omaha, find me, yell at me, holler at me. I'd love to buy you a beer, and we'll do it again tomorrow. This is Locked On Vols.